recording. Hello, everyone. Hi, hello. Okay, so it's me, Joel Clark, author of Lone Wolf Fist, and currently authorizing Acid and Steel, my first big supplement. So I've got the robots here. I got the robot Exalted. Now, you might note, if you are a fan of Exalted, this is the first this is the Autochthonians, which is the first edition Alchemicals book. There was a book before this that they were actually introduced in, and they were very limited in that one. It was like an adventure path that you could go on, and they had just a couple of different rules. And this is the actual supplement that they got released. Now, whenever I was first introduced to Exalted, one of the very first campaigns anyone actually tried to, attempted to actually run with it, was this one. And it petered out almost immediately. Like, at character gen, we were already stuck with what we were trying to do. And I want to demonstrate for you what I think is the problem with how these guys were handled. Because I think the potential of this is huge, right? That's why I'm making my game such as it is. Like, the very first supplement was robots and demons, right? I loved the Infernals and I loved the Alchemicals and Exalted. And I felt like the Infernals got some good play. I ran a campaign with them. They ran pretty well. I've never ran with the Alchemicals where it worked. Generally, what would happen, the only time I saw it function at all was in a mixed Exalted group. And the Alchemicals, like the one Alchemical we had, just kind of functioned like a super weak version of any of the other characters. It really wasn't very capable. I'm going to kind of show you, and this is sort of the systemic problem with Exalted as a game system, but like also very specifically with how they handled the Alchemicals. I think that from concept, these guys really didn't work. And I'm just going to kind of demonstrate why that is. So if you open this book, first of all, this is an explosively creative book. I really can't oversell just how cool it is. The way they introduce them as this alien force in the world, the interesting, the interesting naming conventions, the great use of like the lexicon. Like, they have a bunch of really interesting terms that get put up a lot. And they really sell you on these things. The beautiful layout. I mean, it's all black and white. My likes are black and white too, but they absolutely elevated the layout artists, the artists they get to draw these things, the art itself, all breathtaking. And a lot of the ideas are amazingly useful. Like right here, this hazard ratings chart. This is great. If you're actually running a game set in Autochthonia, and on the spur of the moment, you need to kind of estimate how deadly a thing that you've introduced narratively is. This is brilliant because this gives you the game effect range of what that can do. This is gameable. This is great. And actually, I should probably steal this. I'm glad I'm looking through this again. The little things about the setting are surprisingly well thought out and concise. There's a few things about it that are stupid, like communism working. It doesn't. But like, it's consistent internally. It doesn't contradict itself a lot. There's a few things that are a little like clunky, but for the most part, it's thought out and consequential, and you kind of know like how the world works. I had a problem a lot with especially the underworld, where it wasn't really clear, because you have the underworld and then you have the labyrinth, and then you also have Shadowlands, which are somewhere between underworld and creation, and then you have creation, right? So it's not clear how all that interacts sometimes, like, because you can go into a Shadowland in creation or from the underworld, and the text seems to indicate that like you kind of can't escape a Shadowland, but you really can. I don't know. It's awkward. It's awkward the way that the underworld works. This is very clear though. There's a big giant seal, and as long as it's intact, you're just in Autochthonia. That's it. You're in the pressure cooker, and when it's broken, you can leave. That's it. It's really straightforward, and a lot of the setting stuff is like that. I like the barcode there, by the way. That's cool. Let's just scoot on down here a little bit. So the art especially is really, really good. Like this kind of shows you everything you need to see about Autochthonia right away. And almost every piece of art kind of does that. Like you look at this and you're like, oh, okay, this place has a very particular character, doesn't it? So whoever did art directing on this was a genius. Yeah, again, you've got the art here. You got the different, what are these called? The sodalities. Um, yeah, we get tunnel dwellers, all this cool stuff. Um, God, I love this. I love this art so much. It really is very. Now, here's the first problem, and you can see these big walls of like dull, inflexible text. This is a systemic problem with Exalted. Here's how they introduce the setting to you. Here's the name of a place. Here's all the stuff about the place. Here's the name of another place. Here's the stuff about the place, and it's just like, ugh. There's no charts. There's no encounter lists. There's no description of how you would make stuff that was interactable for your game. It's just like, oh, this thing, you can figure it out, right? And it's really dull. Like it's so boring. But what I want immediately from one of these, like what I need this to do as a GM, and this is one problem that's I think styad is the word that's leaping to my head. But what I need a block of text like this to do is in the first sentence tell me why I would want to set a game here, or like why this would be interesting to encounter if my characters are exploring around. You're right. When new rad shows up, like what does that mean in my campaign? If I'm like, oh man, I really want to do a new rad game, what does that mean? What's the appeal of that? Like not everything has to do that in an RPG, but the setting elements that you're introducing should all pop enough that you can kind of that they're like clear in your head. Like if I'm like, oh hey, I don't want to just do D&D. I want to do a gray castle. What was it? Greyhawk campaign. I want to do a Greyhawk campaign. I want to do a. I want to do. I'm blanking here. A Ravenloft campaign. Like people know what I'm talking about. If I pick up some of the really good modules, I'm like, oh, dude, we're gonna run Keep on the Borderlands right away. I know what I'm getting into with Keep on the Borderlands, right? And really, so do the players, right? We're gonna do Isle of Dread this time. It pops. Like you get what is going on with that. New Rad. Okay, one sentence. What do you got, New Rad? It's the fifth largest nation, and it's in desperate straits. Yeah, it's actually not too bad. I'm okay with being wrong about that. But like, okay, yeah, they're in desperate straits. So I need all of those to do that. And I don't know, like I was reading through these and yeah, second smallest and the wealthiest nation. Okay, so they're rich. It's not very compelling. Fifth largest, and they're in bad shape. Third largest. It was the most progressive and expansionist, but I guess it isn't now. Ugash has a lot of people. It's the fourth largest. You see what I mean? Like they kind of had a template they were writing towards. Members of the populate create innovations or I don't care. Like how would you ever use that in a game? Members of the populate who create useful innovations are rewarded with less crowded quarters and additional personal possessions. Wow. How interesting. I'm on the edge of my seat. It's going to be less crowded? Holy smokes. That'll matter. All right. Anyway, I do like this art though. I could gush over this art. Look at their weird faces and their like those are clearly like cameras, right? Like it's like one of those old school like cameras. It's awesome. This was kind of boring too. I don't really need to know this much about the Lumpen, right? Like I think they're just slaves. Yeah, lowest strata of the Lumpen, who are all outcasts, exiles, or slaves. Literally, all I need to know about the Lumpen is right there. This is just bloviating, and there's a lot of bloviating in this text. The tripartite, I could not care less about the tripartite. Again, I'm willing to bet I will know enough about them by the end of. Oh my God! Look at this sentence. Okay, so the very first sentence. All right, so 90% of the labor, 90% of the population labor in the factories, directed by the tripartite. The tripartite is 3 branches. Oh, God. Look at this. Full colon, comma, semicolon, comma, semicolon, comma. Look at this sentence. Look at that sentence, dude. Dear Lord. Oh, my God. I don't care about the tripartite assembly. Uh, Look at this, dude. And then you go to the different chunks of the tripartite, like the Olgatori, and then you go down to their. They have the Plutarchs and the Regulators. Look at this, dude. This is agony to read through, right? I want an executive summary of this because I'm not reading this. Oh my! I had to. I read every word in this entire book to write my game. But like, look at this, just on and on and on. Oh my God! Shut up! God damn it! Here we go. These guys are kind of cool, and I like their name. I like they got a big fancy name. But again, they're just like, oh, let's just go on about them forever. Do you know how often any of this is going to be relevant in an Autochthonian campaign? It's not really clear. Like, because like you could set a game at the edge of the reaches, and all you do is go out into the reaches and scout for resources, and none of this would matter, right? It's just none of it would matter. There's no real description of what you're supposed to do with all of this, and there's no reason really to make players care about it. Because like the players look at this, like whenever I was trying to make a character, I looked at this and I was like, yeah, okay, I want to be that guy. Soul steel cased, got a big old robot arm, all kinds of weird robot chunks sticking off of him. I want to be this guy. This guy is awesome. Okay, so I can be that guy, and then it's like, okay, well, then the GM has to be like, what does that guy do? And the place you're going to look for an answer to that is right here in all of this. And it's going to be like, oh, I guess you work for, and you gotta look through and you're like, okay, maybe you'll be a cop. Do they have cops? They gotta have cops, right? They're commies. They've got tons of cops. You can work with these guys, but you're not going to be one of these guys. Like, you'll help the regulators, and the regulators answer to, the Olgatori. Alright. The members of the Olgatori have complete political and economic control. Okay, so these are just the ruling class. I like that the commies have a ruling class. Good job, guys. You really solved that whole problem. Alright, they control production schedules and city planning and enforce secular laws, and they judge on non-religious crimes. Their word is law. Okay, so they're the judges. Plutarchs are planners. Nobody cares. Regulators. Okay, that's interesting. They're a police force. They gotta deal with like, political dissidents. I can't be the only one who thinks that the crossbows are stupid. Like, can't anybody have guns on Exalted? Come on, it's stupid. It's just you got this Judge Dredd looking guy. It's like giving him a derringer. It's so dumb. Um, okay, yeah. So I think that the big thing here is like, all right, okay. So when you do an RPG, right, it's really essential that the players have like a problem that they have to solve, right? And sometimes the problems are really self-evident. There's monsters invading, you've got to fight them. Easy, right? And sometimes the problem's a little deeper. Like, it's like we want to get money because we're broke because we drink and winch all the time. So let's go to this dangerous dungeon where there's a bunch of gold rumored to be. There's monsters there and traps, and that complicates things. Okay, so beautiful. You've got a problem, you figure out a solution, and there's a bunch of challenges in the way. All right, so what is the problem that this guy is solving? Is he fighting these guys? Are they on his side? Who are these guys? What's happening in this picture? There's a lot of cool stuff in this. This is a beautiful picture, right? It's really evocative and neat. But connect this picture to the text. What's happening? Is this a war? Is he trying to inspire them? Scare them? Is he sneaking up on them in that gas cloud? Or is he saving them from it? what the hell's happening here, right? And it could be a lot of stuff. It looks like he's about to just destroy these guys, but I couldn't tell you why or who they are or what they want. What's the problem he's solving, right? If this was a war, and one of the earlier ones with the arrows raining down on those guys, that was a war, right? They were charging into battle. Okay, so there wasn't an alchemical in it, though. You'd think that, that would be a big problem that you'd solve with an alchemical. Oh, there's a war. We got to fight the war. But now you've got this robot guy, and here's where they conceptually get kind of murky for me. Okay, so you commission these things. They're not people. They're not like the normal Exalted, where all of a sudden, oh, this guy that was in a war, he's got the soul of an ancient hero in him, and he's like Beowulf now. Like, okay, cool. And the problem of that is, well, but he's like super powerful now. He's got all these ancient memories and weird ideas, so it's going to be hard to deal with this guy. Oh, and he seems to be cursed because every once in a while he'll go into a killing frenzy and he'll just bathe a village in its own blood. So that's a problem. So like Exalted, it's easy to kind of like you can just sort of like stick in a normal fantasy trope like you're in some sword and sandal setting and you're a soldier and then boom you're an exalt and go right because you have this immediacy of the problem in front of you where it's like well we still got a war to fight here right Mahasuchi's troops or beastmen are still invading we got to deal with that you know and all of a sudden it's not just like oh we're on our last leg it's like well we were on our last leg but now you're on our side and you can actually fight his beastmen like on equal footing and then you kind of also have like the next issue right where it's like okay sure we're fighting the Mahasuchi guys just fine, but like he hasn't shown up, and he's like really powerful and ancient. So like he shows up, and now it's like oh, okay, I can't take on Mahasuchi alone. I'm like a fledgling solar, and he's an ancient and established lunar superhero guy. So oh, my daughter's playing The Corridor. I wonder what that's all about. But yeah, and so you kind of have you have the immediacy of this problem that you're solving, and then you have the next problem, which is dealing with a way powerful guy, and then you even have a next problem lined out because once you start dealing with Mahasuchi, you realize that you're one blip on a really big map that has like the Mask of Winners and guys like that on it. So all of a sudden your scope keeps getting bigger, and that makes sense. Like you look at the map of creation, it's tremendous, right? But you start on one little dot somewhere. And so when you're a dot, you're a big fish in a small pond. And as your power and competence increases, the scope of problems that are kind of falling into your realm increase as well. So Exalted's easy to run from a conceptual level, all right? But it's a little different with these guys, right? It's not like I was one of these dudes and all of a sudden I got robot powers. Woo! Autochthon has chosen me. The machine spirit has come to me. No. Like it is a planned economy thing. Like these are war machines. These are pieces of the infrastructure that they construct that have the souls of their heroes inside of them. So they get a bunch of past lives of heroes and their gemstones, and they fuse them all into one dude, and they make a robot body for him, and they're like, you have a job to do, right? And you're a tool of the government, right? You're part of that. So it's way different because okay, it would make sense if it were really limited in scope. Okay, so you make this guy and you're like, okay, well we're having a lot of trouble with people rebelling against government authority because like we're making them work extra shifts because we're in a tight spot right now, and we need to crack down on that. So we need someone who is going to just ruthlessly enforce our laws, and so they make this guy, right? Okay, fine, fair enough. Here's the thing though, and here's where it gets conceptually murky. This guy is a person. Like he's not just an automata that you can just be like, do this, right? So you make a guy with a lot of power, and he has his own sympathies. Like you don't have to work for the guys that made you. You're supposed to, but you're far more powerful than them, right? You're enormously powerful, and it's not clear why you'd keep working for them. Like you're an exalt. Exalts don't take orders. That's just not how it works. But these guys do, according to the lore. So conceptually, that doesn't really fly with the central thesis of the game. Now, it does make it easy to just oh, this is your job, go do it. This is your job, go do it. but you're an exalt. You personally are more powerful than everyone you're dealing with, and also everyone who's giving you orders. So again, that concept is really at war with itself there. And again, you're a person, and beyond being a person, you turn into something that's very not a person. Like as you become more powerful, you physically transform. Like you turn into a giant, colossal robot monster. You're not even slightly a dude anymore. You're like a living war machine. And then eventually you become a city. So like you become the platform for the next generation of Autochthonians, and like that's your existence after that. So there's no like when you're doing a game whose conceit is like central planning works. You okay? Here's the problem with this. I feel like this book was written by communists, and the problem with communists is they don't seem to learn ever. Like every single time communism is attempted, all of the problems with the central planning model become like they become big problems, right? They're things that are impossible to overcome as far as human beings can tell. As soon as you start doing central planning, all of the issues with central planning start cascading really, really hardcore. People start starving. There's like huge overabundances of things you don't need. There's shortages of things you critically need. And there's no way to balance all these problems, right? You start having to crack down and get authoritarian and start forcing people to do things. And all of those constant shortages and overages keep happening because it's just not possible to centrally plan an economy. Basically, an exercise in hubris, and it always fails. Like it's not that I hate communism conceptually. It's just that fundamentally it doesn't work. I mean, I actually do kind of low key hate communism conceptually because it again like it's based on this faulty premise, like a lot of faulty premises, right? That like and like they don't work in the real world, like oh we've got to seize the means of production where it's like well okay but what about the next generation of the means of production, and that's the problem here. Like okay if your ideology is about stealing other people's factories, which is what communism is cored on, like that's like a central belief is people unfairly got or made these like factories, the means of production, right? And so if you take them and you just distribute the labor without profit, that'll work great forever. Except you don't have any guiding principle about how you should use the scarce resources that make the factories work, right? Because like if you're the kind of person that puts up their own money and their own risk, or even like finds a way to get other people to give them money because that you can control the risks and you put a factory together, you're driven by profit, right? We'll do this factory, it'll meet a demand, and we'll make profit as a result, right? People will part with their money for our scarce resources. We'll get scarce resources from them, they'll take scarce resources from us, and it'll be a trade that profits us as the owners. Generally, even in capitalist societies, that's not a single dude anymore. That's like a collection of people and banks and blah blah blah. All right, but like you have a thing that's guiding you, and so whenever your profits start to dip, you could start asking the question, well, why don't people need this anymore? Why aren't they willing to trade their money for it? And profits are a great guide for that. If they're popping off, you gotta increase production to get more of those profits, right? And if they're slowing down, you gotta ask yourself, well, are we over meeting a demand that other people are meeting? Is this not as in demand before? Do we need to pivot and change what this factory makes? What do we got to do, right? Like, and you can experiment, and whatever makes the number go up is what you should do, like fundamentally, and that's kind of a messy method, admittedly, but like the other method is you don't have that. Like, imagine you didn't run for profit, right? And we're just gonna hand these out in the street, and however many they take, great. Well, you could still have a scenario where it's like, okay, well, we made 100 deadly gas masks, to deal with all this gas that this guy is spraying out of his ass apparently, and people are snatching them up. So clearly, we got to up production. We had 100 that sold out yesterday, 100 that sold out the day before. So today we had 100 and only 50 got sold. So okay, we got a stockpile of 50 now. The next day, only 10 get sold. The next day, none get sold. Right? So, okay, now what? What do we do now? And it's not clear, right? You could move on to gloves, I guess. Do people need gloves? Are they like they can't pay anything. It's just whatever you're willing to hand out for free, and you just got to see if people want that. So, like, what would you use as a signal mechanism for that? Do you just ask people, what do you want? What if they give you like 100 different answers? Which one do you choose? Like, I guess you could democratically vote on the next thing your factory would make. We're kind of we're like a techie textile factory. Do they need these little cloak things? Let's vote. And you could give them like three or four options. But like, what about innovation? What if there was some new idea? Like someone was like, well, we have a way more sophisticated gas mask, you know, and it would be more labor intensive and resource intensive to make, so we can't make the same amount, but it's way better than this gas mask. You have to ask yourself the question where it's like, if I'm just making it and handing it out for free, like, we would simply have less people that could get that really high one. So we'll just make, five of those. Like, they sell out. And then a lot of people are like, we need the other masks. A lot of us need masks now. They only have five guys that have these masks. So it's like, do you go back to making the other ones? And like, you constantly have to ask that question. And it's really awkward. Whereas if you were doing it for a profit motive, you'd know right away if that was a profitable, line of business. Like, you make 100 of these masks and they start slowing down. So you introduce a newer, fancier mask, and it sells out really quickly. Well, if it sells out quickly, they're giving you more of their resources, so you can step up production and make even more of them because you're making a tidier profit. It makes sense to make more faster, and like, if people start demanding these other, like, if the price of these other masks starts going up, like on the secondary market, you can monitor that and be like, well, why don't we make a couple of the secondary masks too? We could make 3 of the fancy masks and 60 of the other masks, and then all of a sudden you're making profit from 2 different things. And like, because you always have profit to guide what you're doing, not only are people getting the masks that they need, like, you're consistently, there's an efficiency to that that's just not, that you can't get with any other system. You need profit seeking for that. And like, it's not evil to seek profit. It's not like that only benefits one person. Everyone who needs that masks and who trades their hard-earned money for it profits because they get a mask, which they clearly valued more than the money because they needed it more than that money sitting in an account somewhere, right? Maybe they made some tough trade-offs and they had to eat a little less food or something like that. That sucks, but at least they've got the mask. At least it's available, right? Whereas in the scenario where, like, you're just, handing away things for free, it's, if people need masks, they can't make the decision to have you make more all of a sudden. They just got to kind of wait for one to be available, and it's a catch as can economy, and that's really awkward. So like, that's a problem with central planning, period. That's a problem with eliminating profit motive, period. Okay? And that problem, like, it sounds really small when I say it like that, because it sort of seems like there might be ways to get around it. And indeed, I recommended some. But imagine that for every single thing in a whole economy, right? Like, walk into a store right now. Walk into a Walmart, dude. Like, I mean, put pants on first. Like, have some self-respect. But then walk into a Walmart and just start counting individual items in that store, and understand that a lot of the people that are making those items are not making a profit right now. They might go out of business. They might have to, like, reinvest or change what they're doing, or there's all kinds of things they could do to change the mix of products that they're particularly selling. But there's dozens, hundreds, thousands, millions of distinct companies, all of which employ people gainfully, all of which have filled that store with merchandise. And Walmart overall makes a pretty big profit. Like, they're huge. There's a Walmart in every city, in every state. They're all over the damn place, right? So like, imagine all of those people facing the problem I just described. Imagine the lags and inefficiencies in that, and the vagary of that. And I also highlighted some of the other problems. Like, it's not clear where you should innovate or how, right? Because innovation is expensive. Making newer, better, smaller, more compact masks might not be a good idea. Like, it might be best to stick with the older, clunkier models because they're cheaper, and so you can sell them more. Like, maybe innovate. It's not time for innovation right now. Maybe you need to find a better way to innovate. And, like, maybe that little cheap mask will only have a limited market ever. Maybe there's only like 10 special forces guys who'll ever actually need it. But, like, if they need it, then they're probably willing to pay top dollar for it. So, like, maybe you could, maybe that's so profitable. You don't know, and you won't know without a profit motive, and you won't get that innovation without understanding the signaling that it's only exists because of the profit system, right? So, like, like, imagine that for a factory, right? Like, imagine you need a new kind of factory entirely for that kind of mask, right? There's a lot of risk assessment that goes into building like a new factory, right? It's a huge thing because you have to question, like, okay, if people are putting down millions and millions of dollars for this, and I'm getting together banks, and I'm getting for loans, I'm getting together investors, right, for initial startup capital, I'm putting in my own money, I'm putting in hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe if I'm like a really rich guy, like, I'm doing all that, and the idea is that I will make a product that will sell enough to justify that. That's a huge amount of risk, and we distribute that risk amongst a lot of people that are capable and willing to do it. But imagine that you were just one guy, right? And your job was to determine mask production. Like, would it ever be reasonable to make a new, innovative, and extremely risky mask factory when you're not even certain if it's going to solve the mask problem? Would it? Like, if it might be, you'd be rolling the dice in a really big way, right? And, like, maybe you don't innovate in the right way, but the mask market, if there's always like the potential for higher profits in the mask market, everyone in your society, like, they take on the risk for you. So there's no central failure. It's not just, oh, we wasted this money, right? Instead of that, it's okay, all these different people chose to roll the dice in different ways. And, like, these are good risk assessors. They don't want to lose their money, right? And so, like, the way that works is that if there are failures along the road to profit, that doesn't crush the central, like, doesn't crush the nation. It just, like, it hurts those individual people up to the level of their own personal risk. And that's it. That's a really good way of privatizing the risk of innovation. It doesn't exist in a centrally planned economy. So, all of the problems of central planning, all of them are evident in the creation of the Alchemical Exalted, right? If let's say for a second we privatized alchemicals, okay, where you as a nation could be like, okay, we need someone because Mahasuchi was attacking this one nation, and then a solar exalted. Well, now Mahasuchi's like, those guys are tough. They're picking on us. We don't have anyone exalting. However, we have 5 smart guys, and these 5 smart guys worship a machine god, and they can build this for us. It's going to be a lot of money, but I say we roll the dice on it. So you privatize the creation of this guy, and, like, your nation is like, we're going to make this dude, and he is going to fight our wars for us. He's going to lead our troops. We're not going to be slim pickings anymore. Okay, so that took the wealth of a nation, but, like, let's say even further, like, going beyond this, this guy does gangbusters job. Not only does he beat back Mahasuchi, he takes a bunch of new territory, and you get people that strike it rich up there, and they're like, you know what though, we could do even better. What if we had a super genius that could make cool robots to mine these new lands of ours? So they, as, like, business owners and wealthy traders and what have you, get together and they hire those same 5 guys, and they're like, make us one, make us our own, you know? And so they get together and they make a guy. Let's just squeeze on down there. Oh, that's some cool shit in here, by the way. No. Yeah, they make this guy. They make fucking Gato from Ghost in the Shell. Oh, no, Bato? What the fuck is that guy's name? Yeah, but they make the guy from Ghost in the Shell with the weird eyes. It's definitely who this was based off of, by the way. And so they put that guy together, and he works for them, right? And he's just like a smart and charismatic guy. So he gets all their labor organized. He gives them brilliant blueprints, and they make these cool-ass machines, and they start mining, and then all of a sudden, they're making piles of money. So you're like, all right, we'll just raise taxes a little bit on them. Not too much, not too much. You don't want to tamp that down too bad. You're making good money. They've got a cool robot. And, like, at the end of the day, like, you have these two robot guys who become friends, right? They're like people on top of that, and they have their own loyalties because it's kind of like their family, you know. You're playing this guy, and your friend's playing the Soul Steel guy, and like, his family is like the government and the military, and your family is like these bunch of rich traders, and you both have your own interests because of that. And suddenly you're kind of playing Exalted again, right? Oh, excuse me. Because you have like a core loyalty to the origin of your character, and you meet that solar guy, and the solar guy, like, his loyalty is to his own nation because he was fighting to protect it, and you could make a group out of those dudes. Like, that works really good when you privatize the creation of these guys. um I just I it just seems to work so much better. um but if you don't, like, you're left with a situation where, you know, like, okay, say that, like, we'll go back to the example of put in Autochthonia, where it's like in Autochthonia, like, there's a new war happening, and so you're like, we're gonna commission the creation of, the Soul Steel guy, and you are making him with the very limited resources at your disposal, and you're saying this guy's gonna win this war for us. He's gonna tilt the balance. But you also are kind of saying, okay, so after that, he's gonna become a giant robot man. What can we do with that? And then after that, you're saying, and then he'll be a new city. Does that help us? is that going to help us? And it's a weird thing for a central planner to commit to, because, like, these robots outlive them, outpower them, and fundamentally change the dynamic of how their whole society works each time. It's it's almost something like I wouldn't imagine would exist in a centrally planned economy. Like, imagine you're Joseph Stalin, right? And you rule through fear, and you rule through, like, the popularity that comes with being extremely politically effective. And, like, you're still in charge of a centrally planned economy. And your scientists, you're like, Comrade Stalin, we can make a big robot man for you made out of magical gold, and he can make everything work a lot better. And he can make great inventions for you, and he's charismatic, and he'll help you rule the people, and he will live for thousands of years and eventually turn into a giant robot and then become a city of the people. Like, you're Joseph Stalin. Are you going to say yes to that? What if the people decide he's a better leader than you? And he is. Like, you see how you'd always say no? Like, every time you'd say no to that? There's never a scenario where you'd say yes, please make the superhuman version of me? Why aren't the alchemicals in charge? No, no, serious question though. For the writers of this book, what kept them, because it's thousands of years of history, what kept these guys from being in charge exactly? It wasn't capability. They're more capable than everyone, right? It wasn't lifespan. They outlive everyone, right? It wasn't the ability to destroy everyone, which they definitely have, right? So why did communism continue? Because it doesn't work in the real world. Like, that whole centrally planned economy thing, it's always a problem. What's going on? Why aren't the robots in charge? They wanted communism. I don't know, man. Oh gosh. So yeah. Oh god. I didn't come here to tell you that. I actually really like the art on these. I like the thickness on this guy. He's got a really good design. I don't know how they did to get this to make this artwork. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the shoulders and the arms and the wonderful detailing on the fingers there. Um, God, look at his big old chunky fingers. Yeah, I've got gloves. I'm Mickey Mouse under here. What if we make her look real stupid? All right, no, but that's not why I brought you here today. That's great, by the way. This right here is why I brought you here today. All right, let me find a good one here. Oh boy, some of these are just terrible. I want to find a real good one. Ooh, oh, that's garbage. Oh, That's trash. It's got to be a really bad one. Most of them are like this. Okay, so let's take this for an example. All right, so one of the things that's really great about Exalted as a game is that you can look at the name of a charm and right away you kind of know what it does, right? Um, I can't think of the name of a single charm right now, but like they have pretty straightforward names. I think Excellency is the one that is like the most basic one. You know, you have an excellency in this skill, so you're good at it. Okay, that's easy. And then you have like I'm struggling. Oh, husband seducing demon dance. Guess what that does? It'll either seduce your husband, or in this case, it gets a lot of people to do what you say. It seduces them, you know, with your magic, right? Okay, so there's one. I thought of one. That's one like my favorite one. Um, oh gracious, I'm trying to think of the. There's a perfect defense in the second edition that is its name is really good. I can't remember what it is. I can't remember any of them right now. That sucks. But anyway, the point stands that you know you can read a charm and it kind of explains itself pretty quickly. So the first problem I run into is transcendent multimodal weapon matrix. Okay, well I know what all those words mean. Transcendent means that it transcends something, right? So this is really it's transcendent. It's super good basically. It doesn't have to be good. It could just be beyond a thing, but I'm going to interpret that as good, right? Multimodal, okay, well, you know, that just means that it can do more than one thing. Weapon, all right. Matrix, which is like a plan, basically. Um, so all of them together, I guess it's a plan for different weapons. So I'm assuming you can summon different weapons, and I think that's actually what this charm does. I read all of these the other day. Yeah. Okay. Complex assembly of your case magic material fitted into one or more per hands. So I want to make it clear that my kung fu powers are based on this exact template. Like if you look at my game, oh, you know what? Do I have my game? Let me see what I got here. I'm sure I do. Yeah. Okay. So if you, oh boy, I don't like that at all. Let's cut off the bookmarks. Yeah, here we go. So you look at my game, and you go to the Kung Fu powers. Yeah, it looks exactly the same. Like, look at that. It's exactly the same, right? It's so close. Actually, they did a really good job of getting that close. That's better formatting than mine. But yeah, you can see, like you can see, right? You get it, right? It is the same. And most kung fu style, most kung fu games, that's what they look like. Okay, just for the record, that's just what they look like. So right, however, like okay, so they definitely have superior layout, right? Whoever does their layout is great. But look at this. This is like one of the most complicated powers I have. It's a whole column, right? This is a lot of stuff. This turns you into a multi-armed superhuman, and it has all kinds of crazy powers that it gives you. Here's a normal one. Notice this, the text. Notice that. Compare that to just a charm of theirs, right? Minimum essence 3. This isn't a starting charm, but it's damn close to one. Look at this, dude. All of the charms, all of them are these massive, like unwieldy bricks of text. They should have had someone cut these at the minimum in half. In half, dude. Like all of them. I read all of them, and that's my judgment on all of them. If I were editing this book, I would say, okay, all of these, cut the words in half. I don't want this much. We just don't need it. Like everything below this is probably not necessary at all. Like this indent right here, right there, that motherfucker, that's it. You almost certainly don't need the rest of this. I haven't even read it, and I can tell you right, like I have read it, but I haven't read it right now, and I can tell you that I almost certainly won't need that. You and me are going to go through this real quick and kind of dissect it a little bit, and this is the reason that my game never got off the ground. When I was trying to play, and when I tried to run a game, this is again the reason it did not get off the ground. Fundamentally, these just, you can't run with these. You can't play with these. The spark of enthusiasm versus the workload, like the homework of these, it's not even close. Like the homework utterly crushes whatever enthusiasm you had for a cool robot power. So let's describe this really quickly using the most concise language we can muster as just again like a an executive summary. So, Transcendent Multimodal Weapon Matrix. Before I even read this, I kind of vaguely remember what it does. Basically, you're one of 5 like robot castes, right? You know, they're the different magic materials, orichalcum and soul steel and blah blah. So let's say it's soul steel. So what this does is it lets you make weapons out of your soul steel. That's it. That's what it does. It just lets you make artifact like miniature like short range artifact weapons, like short duration artifact weapons. You can just kind of create them out of your body. That's what it does. Okay? So we really only need a page reference to those artifacts, right? And a description of how they work in a very concise way. You could probably get away with a very tight paragraph like this, maybe. You could probably cut it down to that, or maybe, let me see, right about here. I would think that would be about as much as I'd want this to say, and then I would end it with a page reference. Like right here would be like a sentence or two of page reference. So if you looked at how much I would, at the very maximum, the absolute maximum, have, that's it. That's the amount right there. Would be, as an editor, I'd be like, if you have to bust this, you're not using your language efficiently enough. You need to find a more efficient way of conveying this information. These people need to, at a glance, be able to understand what this does, and they really don't need to be overburdened with reference and reading in the middle of, because it's going to be in the middle of a fight, which is a high energy situation, right? Even if it's like an RPG fight where it's slow and, like, you know, it takes a little while to resolve, you don't want them having to read through all of this, right? All of this, and then all of this, and then all of the. Look at Chemical Fog. Jesus Christ. It's 3 pages. Dude, use your language efficiently. So okay, let's go over this and figure out like how they could have done this well, because they fucked it up, right? They made this mess, and they could have done this well. So first of all, the name does pretty much tell you what's on the tin. Good. It's a little bit awkward. I think they were trying a little too hard with this one, but like Chemical Fog Generator, perfect, nailed it, right? And I really like in the alchemicals how they distinguish the names of their charms, right? They should have made this a guiding principle for how all of the charms work, because the charms are robot, like, you know, augmented. They're mechanical things that you install on your body, right? And the alchemicals have a very clipped, direct, functional way of looking at their robot powers. It's not like some mystical, fancy martial art. It's literally a device they have installed on themselves. So, right, like Chemical Fog Generator, good. Transcendent Multimodal, no. Concise, you know, like, make it more efficient, make it more clipped. They don't want the fanciness. Like, we kind of want the fanciness as consumers, but it should be a lot more direct, because that makes it feel right for the setting that you've made, okay? So this is bullshit. It does say what it says on the tin, but they really needed to tone down the thesaurus on this one. So that would have been a note. That would have been a red line. Okay, so here we go. This first sentence is really good in that it tells you what this charm does. So you don't, and in my estimation as a designer, you really don't need much more than that. You really don't. Once you have the mechanics for what it does, and those mechanics should be here. They're not, because they didn't design this game very well. But, you know, and again, to just kind of give you an example, what my power does, Swallow's Dart, this is what it does right here. That's what it does. This communicates to you its function, right? And here, in theirs, let me show you theirs again. This communicates to you what it requires in terms of what your character has to have, like its requirements to actually access this at all and install it at all. So this is requirements, which is just restrictions, right? So this is only communicating restrictions. This is communicating function. This is good design. This is garbage. Amazing? Crap. Useful? Worthless. Just so you know. Because this is interested in restraining what you can do. This is interested in empowering you and describing what you can do. This is game design This is failure of game design. Just from a structural level, I have already communicated 99% of what this power does in this text. Jesus. Wow, that's way better done than them. Oh my god. So with the effect, I don't really... Again, look at what mine says. You evade the foe strikes as easily as the eagle avoids the snake. So there's a little bit of fanciness there. I could delete that sentence for functionality's sake, but it's so brief that why would I? I get a lot of flavor from that. If you're caught in an area-affecting strike, you move such that your final position puts you safe from any danger or fallout, unless this is impossible. So the actual mechanical function of Swallow's Dart is right here. It's because functionally I know what it does. It defends me. It's a rank 3 defense that costs 3 prana, and I can use it with any set ranging of facing of 0 to 4. Okay? The alternate thing I can use that for is a senses skill, because it's got a skill senses. So again, I'm communicating so much with the actual mechanics that I don't really need to use this, right? And I have, like, here's what it does. So tactically, if you need to know what this does, you only need to look one sentence in, and it gives you a clear idea of how it functions, right? It's direct, it's thorough, this is comprehensive, right? And in the middle of a fight, you can look at your powers and be like, oh, there's a big explosion happening, I need to defend. This is a great defense for that. You can glean that immediately, glancing at this power and just very briefly scanning your eyes over it. You don't, like, imagine trying to do that with this. It would never work. It'd be impossible. It would be insane to even try. So yeah, like, yeah, this is awful. This is awful. Jesus, God, I did this so much better than they did. And these people, like, they swagger around the industry, you know, like, oh, I designed this and this and that. No, you didn't. You fucking failed to design is what you did, you dumb fuck. And all the layout, right? All the superior layout, all the money they spent on art, all that shit in the garbage because I can't run the fucking game. Again, I tried. Other people that are better GMs than me tried. Failed every time. Failure, failure, failure. Complete trash. All right, so here we go. Let's actually read it. Let's read it, and you tell me. You know, you fucking tell me. All right, the Alchemical is a complex assembly of her case magic materials fitted into one or more of her hands, allowing her to grow close combat artifact weapons in her grip as desired. So if this communicated how that worked, you'd be done by now, for the record. So yeah, this trash. All right, the device is a number of weapon templates equal to the number of times the Exalt installs the charm. Oh boy. Okay, so first of all, I understand why you do this. Again, it's restricting the power of your character, and it's defining the parameters of how it can function. This is fine, kind of, but you have to understand. You have to understand that in addition to not being able to afford as many charms as you want because of the restriction of experience points and the availability of figuring out, of like learning the charms, in addition, oh, and also training times. Don't forget training times. In addition to that, you only have a certain number of slots on your body that can hold charms. So you're sharply limited in the kind of powers you can have as an alchemical. Is there a benefit to that? Not really. Is there a lot of fucking paperwork and a lot of tedium and minutia for that? Uh-huh. It's really, really irritating to deal with one of these guys. Okay, none of which can artifact rating above 3. All weapons must be... This is just restrictions. All weapons must be simple magical expansions of mundane weapons. Dieclaves, Gormals, and the like. Shock pikes, firelines with sophisticated melee entry variants are not permitted, nor are artifacts with secondary magical functions unrelated to close combat. So they are telling you what you can't do. Why wouldn't they just tell you what you can do? They're saying all the artifacts are on the table, except for these, and these, and these. So it's every artifact. So the first thing they do, and this is just, again, this is poorly written. They give you every artifact. They're like, you can do templates of magical weapons. And then they start giving the restrictions. Oh, but from all that huge list you have to choose from and look through and weigh all the options of before you're ready to play, you have to restrict them in the following ways. You have to go through your checklist. It can't be more than artifact 3. It has to be an extension of a mundane weapon. It cannot be these more sophisticated weapons. It can have a secondary function unrelated to close combat. So they're trying to keep you from getting a bigger benefit that they anticipate out of this. But they could have just said it can be a diclave or this or that or this. Right? They could have given you a small list of options it could be and said choose one per installation. So it can be a standard diclave or a standard what other weapons are there in Exalted? I know diclave. You can say standard diclave, grand diclave, hammer, sai. Like they could have had like 5 or 6, right? And said choose from one of these, and that's it. That's per installation, and then again you're kind of done, right? You don't have to worry about don't do this and don't do that and naming specific examples of things you can't do. It's just terribly written. This is just so inefficiently crafted. I'm baffled by this. All right, two-handed weapons follow the same usage rules as explained in Integrated Arsenal Upgrade, which means you have to go and look at another charm. Okay, where's Integrated Arsenal Upgrade? It said it was in 96. Okay, here. Alright, oh god, where is that? Like, look at this. Alright, Exalt has an array of close combat weapons all into his body. Find the installation multi-limb frame. Finish as desired. Deflects faction, reverse the function. Multiple items can be placed on a single arm. Oh god. Oh my god. Exceptional weapon retrofitted. 200 weapons fold away into a single limb, but often primarily 2 limbs to operate. Okay, so this is the sentence they wanted to reference. It is on the second page of this terribly laid out charm in the 3rd paragraph. Why would you do it that way? You could just say this functions as this charm but works on artifact weapons. You don't have to say it like this. What you could even just say this enhances the power of this charm by adding the benefits of an artifact weapon on top of it. It's artifact versions of these. There's so many better ways to say this, dude. Activating a weapon costs a number of motes equal to, number of motes. You could just say costs essence, right? Because that's what you're spending. You don't have to say number of motes. Again, there's so many inefficiencies here. This is like a first draft. Activating weapon costs motes equal to the standard attunement cost of the weapon. What? Okay, so, and here's another thing. Immediately, so I read this. There's no cost benefit to not just having an artifact weapon. Why wouldn't you just have a diclave? You could just get one. It's actually really cheap to get a diclave. And if you're already going to be using this to make a diclave in almost every scenario, why wouldn't you just have a diclave? What's wrong with that? Just keep it in a scabbard like a person. You've got a person body. What's the benefit here? Why would you get this charm? Alright. So it provides the appropriate magical material bonus of your case and not another one. You can't do another one. Alright, since items created with this charm are actually extensions of the Exalt. Okay, so here's the actual benefits. She cannot be disarmed by mundane or magical means without amputation. It's actually pretty hard to disarm you anyway, just for the record. Even in the case of such maiming injury, the said weapon immediately shatters into fragments of its magic material, cannot be used to master its artifacts. See, again, it's trying to keep you from exploiting it. But there's no reason to believe that... Like, okay, who would think that you could make a weapon out of your own body, with the use of magic, break it, and then use that as a way to manufacture more of these things? That's such an off-the-wall interpretation of how this would even work. Like, why would you assume that? Again, it's like they're not even trying to appeal to the Tactical Infinity. If you have the Tactical Infinity right away, As a GM, you could be like, of course that doesn't work. You're making it out of your own body. Like, you're just tearing off chunks of your body and using it. That doesn't give you infinite anything. That gives you the limit of your physical form's worth of a thing. The end. Unfortunately, the weapon's nature also says from using the hand, wielding it for any other task, which again is not a. That's another drawback. Deactivating the charm is a reflexive action, causing him to fold away back into the charm. If so, that's awkward. You could say device. If so desired, alchemicals may purchase separate installation of this charm, allowing different hands or multi-frame appendages to grow different weapons simultaneously. Limbs can only grow the weapon if simply are anchored in them. So you have to assign it to the limb. Again, why wouldn't you just have the artifacts? They're cheap for you. In order to change the arrangement, Exalt must have the charm removed and reinstalled. I honestly don't understand. The only benefit, literally the only benefit, is you can't be disarmed as easily. Do you see what I mean? Like, look at all this. Look how inefficient that is. This is a page, dude. The first time that we were going to try to run this game, right? The guy who had the book passed it around to us. And he's like, everybody make a character. And each one of us had to read through page after agonizing page of this and absorb all of these restrictions, right, in our starting character and all of these limitations. And we had to try to ask ourselves, okay, what's my character's motive? Like, what am I doing? What's interesting about my character? How do I use these tools to accomplish those tasks? And none of us, literally none of us, could figure out an answer. It's just, and look at this, dude. Dear Lord. There's just so many better ways to do this. All of them. Every charm. You can see how huge these charms are. Look at this. Look at this, dude. Oh my god. This is actually a cool charm. The repeating pneumatic bow, it gives you like a basically like a super crossbow on your arm. It's cool, right? You would never know. It's so inefficient. This is the central problem of how these charms work, of how the whole thing is put together. So, yeah. I'm getting tired from bitching about this. And I'm not here to rag on the Alchemicals book or its authors. I'm really not. But I'm trying to demonstrate to you, like, I was inspired by this. I've been inspired by it for years, right? And I've always, like, kind of in the back of my mind been like, oh, I should get around to running a game of that. The reason I'm making Acid and Steel, the reason I am writing what I am writing, is because I can't, and really no one can, run this game. It's just really not possible. There's too many problems. The amount of benefit you get is so... It's so minimal, considering the amount of effort. It's not even... It's just not tenable. Let's see. Here we go. So, let's show you guys my stuff to cap this off on a positive note. Okay. So, let me see. Here we go. Here's my version of all that power. Okay? Weaponry concealment compartments. All right. So, let me show you what those do. They have an installation which tells you this is a limitation, right? This is how you put it into your physical robot body, right? And not all of these things are a huge negative. Like in this case, this is kind of hidden. It's beneath your dermis, beneath your robot outer layer. This is the cost. That's how much prana you have to spend when you use it. Here's the effect. And you can see there's a pretty big effect here. It installs several small components, which equipped with... which equipped? Which are equipped. There we go. Install several small compartments which are equipped with spring-loaded weaponry. Allows the storage of up to your current chassis or body size +1. Weapons or other handheld equipment. So you do have to figure out the equipment you put in them. These weapons may be... Actually... I'm just going to go ahead and just say weapons. It doesn't have to be other handheld equipment. I got one for handheld equipment. These weapons may be integrated into your frame, making you impossible to disarm through conventional means. Oh look, it's the one benefit from that charm. popular graded weapons are, notice how I have a small list here: boot knives, wrist daggers, and of course knuckle spikes. These are perfectly concealed beneath your skin dermal plating and spring out at your command for the cost of 1 prana. Here's the benefit to you: they are concealed and they spring out for a very minimal cost. So you have a little arsenal on you that you can deploy when you need it. So the benefit of that is that no one knows you have it. That's a benefit, right? You can also be impossible to disarm for a very minimal cost. And they're just normal weapons and things. The size is minimal. It doesn't give you a whole lot of robot madness, and it has a keyword where it enhances your capabilities. Notice how quickly its benefits and trade-offs are apparent to you. This is this, and like I can't emphasize this enough, gentlemen and other men that are watching this, because no women like my game. But I can't emphasize this enough to you. Um, that's the exact same power that we just read for like the last hour. It's 100% the same power. I don't even know what to do with that. Like, this was my task, right? And it was a very difficult task. What is this? Oh, is this just the monitor? Okay, oops. It was, and like I've got more interesting things, like the overload driver, which makes you shoot out lasers by overloading your artificial chakra. Of course, good old rocket fist, and like sometimes I go a little harder. You know, you can see I've got a lot more going on with the rocket fist and the core overload driver. So some of them are pretty chunky. But look at this. Look how I describe the advantages that you get from these things in concrete terms, right? Oh, it's my girlfriend. Hello, darling. What's going on?
No, did you see my message?
No. I've been recording something. What's going on?
Oh shit, am I interrupting?
Yes. What's going on? Yeah, when it comes to
How much?
small, the smallest one.
Okay,
Yeah, literally the smallest one. That's it.
okay. I'm on my way home, my bad.
That's okay. I love you, sweetheart.
Love you too, bye.
Boop. Ah, good times. Anyway, so yeah, I do go harder on occasion, uh, but not universally. I just have like the the way I have designed these is it's a lot more efficient. This is what I'm currently stuck on, is the environmental adaptation. I can't figure out what wood is going to be. I know what water is going to be. I just don't feel like writing it right now. But like yeah, so and like there's a lot of other problems because when you actually think about it, it's not fun to turn into a city. It's really like it's just not. What is this? Oh, okay. This is a plush that my child wants. Like so, I had to figure out like okay, in what way could I incentivize players to want to be a city? Does that even make sense conceptually? Like, I want to keep it, but I have to justify it. So I spent, God, months, like, thinking about, like, okay, but for real, what does it do? You know, how do vehicles make sense in this cramped internal world? You know, like, it took a lot of work, boyos. And so, and you can see that like I've got the concept space blazed out now, and I've got the way in which that's going to be communicated, articulated in an efficient way. Like it was hard. Okay, that's what I had to work with. If you're wondering why this is all taking so long, that would be the reason. I'm just gonna move myself. I'm gonna move this off the screen. Whee! I'm flying. Okay. Anyway, but yeah. So if you're wondering why this is all taking so long, that would be why. That's the raw material I had to work with for the robot people, and it's pretty painful. I had to read that whole thing. I had to critique it, and then I had to improve upon it, and then I had to retain the big ideas but articulate them in a way that actually worked. And I've done all of it. And I'm doing this for whatever minimal sales I'm going to make post Kickstarter because like God, I think about the years of my life I spent doing the same thing for the Exalted core book and all of its different splats aside from Lunars. for the Lone Wolf Fist core book, and it's still bronze. I want to say no, it's silver. It's silver on Drive Through RPG, which means I have not sold. I want to say it's 250 copies of the book. 250. That feels like an unattainably high number for me. Unattainably high. That's just tragic. Exalted's still making 60K every Kickstarter. Like, at a minimum. God, I hate this industry so fucking much. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the salt mines, but I wanted to come on here and I wanted to share my frustrations with you in what has become an over 1 hour rant about like how difficult it is to actually design a functional game, and how frustrating it is that we constantly spend money, piles of money, on things that are utterly unfunctional nightmares, and then we just act like surprised, that like actually capable indie designers burn out long before we actually manage to get any kind of reasonable success. So, tell all your friends, show them this video, and tell them why Exalted sucks and why my game is amazing. Because it actually works. It solves the problem that Exalted writers utterly failed to solve when they introduced it. Anyway, that's it. I'm done ranting for now. I'm tired. I'm going to go make some beef stew, and then I'm going to watch Neon Genesis Evangelion so that I can get just enough dopamine to continue writing. I'll see you guys later.